Hello, and welcome to 10 Minutes That Can Change Your Life. This program is brought to you each week by the Port Huron Church of Christ, located at 756 17th Street, right here in the city of Port Huron. Hey, if you've been following us for some time, we want you to know that we really appreciate your support. And if you've been enjoying this program, would you please do us a favor and share it with your friends on Facebook, okay? Thank you for that. I hope you had a great holiday and you're ready now to refocus and get back into the Word of God. We started a couple of weeks ago and we looked at Genesis 1 and with an attempt to understand how we got here. Where did all of this come from? Who was responsible for all this? And the Bible tells us that in the beginning God created. I know. There's a lot of theories about that, but they're just theories. They're just beliefs of some people. You got to remember, in all of these theories, when they said there was a boom somewhere, somebody had to be there back then to talk about the boom. Now, who was that? They don't tell you that part, do they? And there's no evidence that a fish ever walked out of the water and eventually grew legs and became a man. They don't show you that either. So we've been involved in listening to a lot of theories. But now we're listening to what God says. You can believe whatever you want. I choose to believe that which is proven by fact and by history. So we looked at Genesis 1 and we saw that God created everything that we understand that's to be around us, everything that's been created. And then in Genesis 2, he created man. And we saw that we came from the dust of the ground. And then after he created man, he created woman and how she came into being. And then the Bible says that God put them together, that she was the suitable helper for man. She was the one that God created for man. Now, then, unfortunately, we left off last week with Genesis 3. And that wasn't so good for man. That was when man kind of messed up. You recall Adam and Eve were in a garden and they ate from the tree which God told them not to eat. They were deceived. And as a result of it, they were all penalized. And ultimately, we didn't get into that yet, but Adam and Eve were kicked out of the garden. And then God blocked it off so that they couldn't come back. Sad. Now, we've been talking about Romans 6:23 and talked about the gift of God. And that's what started us on this journey in the first place, trying to understand the gift, what made the gift so special. And that's why we went back and looked at who God was, so that we could understand who the giver of the gift was. So now let's pick up from that thought today and think about this gift that we've been given. I've been doing a lot of thinking about that. I said, now how can I help you understand just how magnificent this gift was? And this is what I came up with. It may not be the best, but it's the best that I can do. So we're sitting right now in the midst of COVID-19. And COVID-19 up until this point has perplexed many, and it was something that we didn't understand at first. We're getting better at understanding it, but we didn't understand it. So let's use COVID-19 as an example of what God has done with this gift, okay? So here we go. COVID-19 has now, and this is just a hypothesis. This is not true, okay? I'm just making a point. So now COVID-19 has mutated again. And instead of just affecting people with compromised immune systems, let's say now that COVID-19 is affecting everyone. Every host that it comes upon, they are instantly infected by it. So automatically, this thing has changed dramatically because anybody can get it. But more so than that, let's add another dimension to that so we can make this really real. So now, in addition to that, after a short period of time with the COVID-19, the host dies. Every single person, regardless of age, regardless of health condition, regardless of anything, everyone that gets COVID-19, after a very brief point or time of sickness, they die. So it's a bleak situation is what I'm telling you. And now there's a panic. Everybody's afraid of getting it, where we're kind of relaxed now. No, if that happened, everybody would be terrified, because they know that if they get it, the end is a certain death, not a maybe. No one escapes in our example. Okay, now, I own a company, and we come out now with the vaccine for COVID-19. And it's not just a vaccine to keep people from getting it. It's for people that are currently sick. And if they get this vaccine, it will do two things. Number one, it will make the sick people well. It will instantly kill the COVID-19 and make them well. And number two, it will keep anybody who has been vaccinated from getting COVID-19. So you won't get the virus if you haven't gotten it, and if you do have it, it will make you well. So that would be a pretty substantial invention. I think that many would just run to it, but there would be a catch. And watch the catch now. The catch would be this. In order to get my vaccination, it's going to cost you $100 million. I know. Sorry. I'm a little greedy. $100 million. Because I know I'm the only one that have it. And that's the way, we think. If I'm the only guy that has it and everybody wants it, $100 million. Now, so what I just did with that is probably eliminated 98% of the people in the world, because they can't afford it. No exceptions. $100 million cash. I don't take checks or credit cards. I want it in cash. Now, what is your situation now? Because I'm guessing if you're like me and many, many others, you don't have $100 million. And even if you did, and you have a wife or husband and children, would you use the $100,000 if you can only afford it for one person? Would you use $100 million on yourself and just let them die, knowing that they're going to die? See, it's a tough decision. But let's say that's the circumstance now. We have a vaccination now. It's guaranteed. It's proven itself, because some of the rich people have already taken advantage of it, and they've seen the results, and they go, wow, this stuff really works, like he said. But it's $100 million. So, right now at this point, for everyone that doesn't have the $100 million, it's a time of understanding that you're going to die. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And in the midst of this situation, there is hopelessness, because there's no other answer. No one has any other vaccination. No one has come up with anything. This is the only thing, the only way, and it's $100 million, and if you don't have it, you die. So it's a bleak, bleak, bleak situation. But for many. So now we're looking at a situation now. Let's say, for instance, I met you, and we talked, and during the course of our conversation, you were telling me you didn't know who I was, but you was telling me about this how scared you are, how afraid, and that if you only had $100 million, you heard that there was a vaccination that you could get. And what if I told you then that I was the person who created the vaccine, and I can make it available to you for nothing? And what if I told you that because I like you, and because I believe your story and your situation touched my heart, that not only would I give you the vaccination, but I would give it to all of those in your family that you identify and want to have it. Free of charge. Cost you nothing. Now what does it sound like? You would be living, you and your family, because I wouldn't want you to be alone. You need family around you, right? With the few people that have the $100 million, the rich people, you'd be the only ones left. Now, the question is, what would you say? Would you say thank you? Would you be grateful at all for that? Or would you have to think about it? And what if after I have given you the vaccine and now you have no issue with COVID-19 and your family has no issue with COVID-19, and what if you were in the company of someone that was talking about me because I'm charging $100 million for this? Would you stand by and let them speak badly of me? Or on the other side of that, would you tell people about the generosity that I've demonstrated to you in giving you this vaccine free? Would you tell them how happy you are that you were once going to die and now you're going to live? Would you explain that to them and would you express that to them? Enjoy. There's got to be a reaction, and that's what I'm asking you for. What would be your reaction? Well, if you can grab that, now you are beginning to understand the reason for the gift. Because in the real life scenario, God is the person with the vaccine. God determines who lives or dies. The Bible says in Romans 3:23 that all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. That means because we all come from Adam. Adam and Eve were created. Remember that? A little test for you. But all of us that came out of Adam were procreated. We have Adam and Eve's DNA somewhere deep inside of us, but we came through procreation. That means we came from our fathers, who came from their fathers, who came from their fathers, and generation after generation. That's how we are born today. But God created the two original people, and we inherited their DNA, which means we inherited their desires. And so we suffer with the same things that they did. Left alone to our own vices, we are not the best people. The Bible says there are three things that all human beings aspire to, or they gravitate towards, in the flesh, as they call it, in our beings. It's the pride of life, the lust of the eye, and the lust of the flesh. One of those three things, in one of those three categories, you're going to find that you will naturally gravitate. Just as a human being, that's what we do. The pride of life. We want everything that we see. We want it. We want to enjoy life. We want FUN in mega doses. We want fun. So now we get to this place where he said, because of these things, we have sinned. We don't do what God wants us to do. We do what we want to do. Let me ask you, have you sinned today? Sin is going against the word of God. And you say, well, Lamar, I don't know. Have you lied today? Have you driven your car 1 mile over the speed limit, which means legally you broke the law? See how it is? Were you evil to somebody today? Did you gossip about somebody today? Oh, it's so easy. As a matter of fact, it's impossible. And that's the point. It's impossible for us to live and not sin, because it's our nature as human beings. We're going to do that. We're going to get angry at somebody, and we're going to say some things that we shouldn't say to them because it's our nature. Or we're going to try to take something that belongs to someone else because it's our nature. Or we're going to do things that we shouldn't. And God said that. And now in 6:23 is where we were. It said, for the wages of sin is death. The wages, what we deserve, is death. And really the point in all of this, the question we really need to ask ourselves is, because God is so righteous and holy and we are so disgusting, why doesn't he just kill all of us? Why does he even allow us to live? And then you get to John 3:16, for God so loved the world. That's what we're seeing, is his great love for us. He loves us so much that he doesn't want us to die. And so he's making life available through his son. Listen to this in Romans 5, verse number 6 through 8. You see, at just the right time, when we were still powerless, Christ died for the ungodly. While we were still in the midst of our sins, while we were still enjoying just doing all of this bad stuff, the Bible said Christ died for us. Christ died for me. Christ died for you. While you wasn't even thinking about God, Christ died for you. Now listen to this. It said, very rarely will anyone die for a righteous person, though for a good person, someone might possibly dare to die. But God demonstrates his own love for us in this. While we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Christ paid the price that it cost us to remove death from our lives. And now he's saying that in our text, the wages of sin is death. But the gift of God is eternal life. Instead of getting death, we get eternal life. And it's found in Christ Jesus our Lord. Because, as John 3:16 says, Jesus died for us. Jesus died on a cross and paid the price so that mankind, so that those that believe, so that those that will accept it will live. Our time is almost up. Our time is up. But let me say this before we go, and I want you to think about this until we come back next week. We were going to die. You were going to die. And now you have a chance to live because of what Jesus did. Just like the vaccine that I had, you could only benefit from it if you would have accepted it when I offered it. If I didn't offer it, you had no choice. But once I did, it was up to you to say, yes, I want it, and take it. And that's what God is telling us. Jesus died for you. The question is, do you believe it? Do you want it? And we're going to talk about that a little bit more, but you know what? I'm sorry. Our time is far spent, and we both have to go. So I want to thank you again for being with us. I'm just praying that you're gaining some understanding from this journey we are going on. I'm trying to take this very slowly so that you can get it. And what I want you to do is go back and read these passages of Scripture that I've been giving you and think about them and letting God talk to your hearts so that you can begin to understand what's going on. Satan is lying to everyone, trying to get them to die, and God is trying to tell everybody, no, I don't want you to die, have life. So we're going to be back here next week in the same place, and until then, remember that you can change your life 10 minutes at a time. God bless you, and we'll see you right here next week.